Hello, hello, and welcome to the Hiram Connection with your hosts, Unique
and Janice, where tonight we're talking about self-esteem. Now, most people can feel bad about themselves from time to time. That's just human nature.
Mm-hmm.
But feelings of low self-esteem, when we're looking a little bit deeper into that, it can be triggered by being treated poorly by somebody recently or in the past, such as boyfriends, girlfriends, family members, siblings.
Right.
But when we also look at that, we can also judge ourselves, and that can put us in a spiral of low self-esteem. And that is normal. But however, low self-esteem that's a constant and continuous companion is not normal. And it's those who experience the depression and anxiety and the phobias and those, delusional thinkings that can be very disabling. And if you are one of these people, or if you know of anyone that is suffering from this, that you're going through life and you're feeling bad about yourself, there are ways and methods that can help you improve that low self-esteem that's keeping you at this time from enjoying your life and doing the things that you want to do and help you work towards the personal goals that you want for yourself and your family.
Right. And so before we take the conversation to that extent tonight, we're going to start with simply defining self-esteem. And I did look up the definition and I found two. So, that's my favorite thing to do for our podcast. So I'm going to share those. And then I will also share a personal story about self-esteem and, the fact that I dealt with that at a younger age. So for self-esteem, the first definition that I found, it simply reads a confidence and satisfaction in oneself. The second definition reads a feeling of having respect for yourself and your abilities, which I think is very powerful. And we'll come back to that second definition. To speak candidly, about my personal struggles with self-esteem. Growing up, I always tried to find a way, to fit in, to fit in with the crowd or what have you. And being a shy and quiet person, and that's probably hard for some to believe knowing me nowadays. Well, I still have my shy moments, but I was extremely shy and quiet growing up. You know that, Janice. So I didn't try to initiate conversations with people, and I normally just kind of kept to myself. For me, I found enjoyment in reading books, listening to music, or watching music videos.
MTV.
Right. Those were my things to do. And I was always self-conscious about my looks and the fact that I was always labeled as being the nerdy girl in school because, I always focused on my work, but that's what mom had instilled in us. So it was always just, I had to get to the books, got to get these A's and B's and so on and so forth. So I was self-conscious with that and just a few other things. And because I wasn't trying to be a part of that in crowd, that was a struggle for me. And I preferred at that time just being around my family, and like the cousins we were growing up with around in New York than being around strangers. And yeah, you had to go to school and deal with some strangers, but I preferred to be around my family. We didn't have a lot of money, but mom made sure that we didn't have lack in the household.
True.
And I bring that up just simply to say that part of that self-esteem struggle for me was, you always had people that they dressed in the latest fashions, and we didn't do that. Mom always kept us neat. Now, I mean, our hair was laid. We had our clothes were pressed. We had nice clothes on that were fitting, but it wasn't necessarily the brands.
The Nikes or the Converse with the swooshes, but we rocked those Buster Browns though.
In a heartbeat. So, it's like, because just, I think the plethora of all of that and being young and growing up, it's like you're kind of dealing with that identity of, okay, well, I'm self-conscious because I don't dress like this person, or I'm considered to be the nerd, or I'm wearing glasses and blah 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 blah. So that was basically, it was a serious struggle and my first interaction with self-esteem, and just struggling with that. And I'm sure there's a lot of young ladies to this date that struggle with self-esteem issues or challenges. And fast forwarding, that was kind of just the New York portion of it. But fast forwarding to when we moved down south, which was a whole other beast that we dealt with. I think just some of the little comments that were made when we moved down south about, I was quiet, but then I was the little light-skinned chick from New York. It's like I dealt with some borderline. I think back now, I think they would want to be bullies and stuff. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna call any names or do whatever, but it's just, I think for me, the saving grace and just kind of eventually, slowly but surely, coming out of that self-esteem was the fact that we were surrounded by family and family members that I grew close to. So I had some cousins in school, and some friends that I made that, we got really tight. So that kind of helped me, to deal with those self-esteem issues that I, struggled with at that time, because I couldn't see the greatness in myself. But I think going through that experience from moving from the north down south and just through all of that, that kind of helped me slowly but surely combat those self-esteem challenges.
Nick, I want to read something. When I was working on my last degree, I had to do a paper in reference to self-esteem, self-confidence, and things of that nature. And when we discussed that this was the podcast that we were going to do, the topic, I decided to pull out some of my old notes. And where I found this paper excerpt poem was on a website called blogspot.com. And it was posted in November of 2008. And it was posted, I'm not sure whether or not this was an author or a repost or whichever, but the author's name is Kiran Kumar Roy.
Okay.
And this is what it reads. Confidence and self-esteem were best friends. They went everywhere together. If confidence bought a new dress, self-esteem bought one just like it. They were very close. One day, a new kid came to their school. His name was Peer Pressure. And he had a friend called Hateful Words. They decided to give Confidence a hard time. They constantly teased her. They forced her to do terrible things. It was so terrible that Confidence lost self-esteem. When self-esteem wanted to start some classes, Confidence said they wouldn't be any good. Then one day, Peer Pressure introduced Confidence to doubt. He wanted to ruin Confidence, but Peer Pressure said he couldn't yet. Self-esteem couldn't understand what was wrong with Confidence. Confidence now hung around with depression, low self-esteem, and overeating. These girls were friends with Peer Pressure. Self-esteem no longer had any friends. She no longer felt good about herself. She went to see her IM. IM Good Words told her how to talk to Confidence, and he introduced her to his daughter, Encouragement. Encouragement and self-esteem went to find Confidence. Self-esteem hoped she wasn't too late. The girls found Confidence in a stupor. She was no longer a vibrant, happy young girl. There were dark circles underneath her eyes. She had gained so much weight from eating, she couldn't even move. Encouragement gasped and self-esteem cried. She begged Encouragement to do something. Encouragement began to hug Confidence. She kissed her and loved her. She told her that she was a beautiful young lady who had a lot going for her. Encouragement held Confidence so tightly that self-esteem thought she would smother her. Confidence began to cry. As she cried, she seemed to lose weight. Then a bright light suddenly glowed from Confidence and she began to smile. Peer pressure and his friends didn't like what encouragement was doing and tried to attack her. They hit her and pulled at her, but they couldn't pull her away from Confidence. Then Confidence began to speak. Get away from me, peer pressure. Take your friends and go. You no longer have power over me. Confidence was now a glowing light. She and her friends made sure that peer pressure and his gang never bothered anyone in their town again. And an excerpt after this states, if you feel that encouragement is not your friend, then try to find encouragement in yourself. Self-esteem and confidence will follow.
Wow. Whew, I really like that. I wanted to share that in looking at some stats, it was interesting that I found one that stated the following. It said 7 in 10 girls believe they are not good enough or do not measure up in some way, including their looks, performance in school, and relationships with friends and family members. So, that hit really close to home for me. Having been one of those young ladies, I totally get it. Now, moving to present day, if I had to write an encouraging word to my younger self, this is what I would say. I would tell her that you are beautiful, strong, amazing, and will make a tremendous mark in this world. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back to talk more about self-esteem. Hello, and welcome back to the second half of the Hiram Connection with your hosts, Unique
and Janice, where tonight we're talking about self-esteem. Now, before we go any further, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that my sister and I don't have any letters behind our name in the fact of when we're talking about the clinician side of the house of psychology, psychiatrist, social work, or anything of that nature.
Right.
This is a very serious topic that many people, millions of people in the world deal with today. And we're just coming at this topic from our personal perspective and our point of view.
Right.
So please take that into consideration as you are listening to this podcast.
Right.
So with that, I have a question for you, Unique. Would you be able to share some ideas about how anyone can deal with overcoming self-esteem issues?
Yes. I think 3 things that I would share just right off the top. First and foremost, figure out what it is that you like to do. And why I bring that up is because, growing up, there's always things you like to do, whether that's writing, singing, sports, what have you. The list can go on and on and on. So I would say when you figure out what you like to do, don't allow anyone to tell you what you can't do. Because I think that's a big reason, or one of the big adversities that you can face as far as dealing with self-esteem issues.
Someone telling you that you can't.
Right. So my advice to that would be to begin immersing yourself with perfecting whatever that interest or that craft is, develop it and hone it. Study other individuals that may, they've transcended, they've been that, say, best-selling author or stellar athlete like Michael Jordan. So That's one of my favorites of all times. But in all seriousness, just, study those individuals and look at their successes, look at some of the advice that they've given. And then whatever it is that you like to do as you are perfecting that thing yourself, perfect it so it fits your style and your personality. I'll say that again. Perfect it so it fits your style and your personality, because that's important, because you always want to keep in mind of who you are and let that transcend to whatever it is that you decide you want to do. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would say is to associate and actively interact with a group of like-minded individuals. So, for example, and I always go back to the writing thing because, as you've all probably figured out from our podcast, many podcasts, writing has always been personal to me. And being now a published author, that's just something that I've worked on honing and perfecting for myself. So, if you love to write, then if there's a professional group of writers or an association that you can gain support and keep yourself motivated, then join that. Just be open to getting and embracing a positive mentor out of that group. And I think mentorship is important because if you can just get connected with one individual who will be there to push you, to your greatness and encourage you to just keep pressing through all those things that you may have in your mind as far as, the self-esteem challenges or whatever it is that may be a hindrance to you. That individual can provide you some tough love and constructive criticism and overall positive encouragement and enforcement to help you propel through those self-esteem challenges. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I would say is build your confidence by doing something that you've never, ever done. So, for example, and we'll keep it in layman's term, if you don't enjoy speaking in front of people, I'm raising my hand. I know you all can't see me. Okay. I do not like public speaking. But what I've learned is when you participate in, like, say, a networking event or even join like a public speaking group, I can't think of the name, Toastmasters, excuse me, that's one. And it's filled with individuals who are trying to combat the same things that you are, trying to get over that, fear or hindrance or whatever it is about public speaking. I think that they will assist you in overcoming that fear or whatever it is that may be, providing challenges with you getting out and speaking in front of people. And I think the more that you actively allow yourself to do those type of things, then your self-esteem will begin to grow. So my overall advice would be to take a leap and don't play it safe. So Janice, what tips or advice would you have for our listening audience about trying to overcome self-esteem issues or challenges?
Some things that I think we can do right away, every day as a matter of fact, to help raise self-esteem, is that we got to pay attention to our own needs and our own wants. We have to listen to our body, our mind, our spirit, what our heart is telling us. And an example of that, if your body is telling you that you've been sitting down too long, stand up, stretch, do something active, get moving. Spend time with those who are closest to you, that special friend, that family member that you haven't seen in a while. Pick up the phone and call. If your body, your mind is telling you, hey, clean up something, do something, just be active. We have to be in connection with ourselves, mind, body, soul, spirit, all in one. So we know when something is out equilibrium. So, just pay attention. Something else that I think is very important, because we spend so much time taking care of others, is that do something that makes you feel better about yourself. Splurge. Do something that is investing in you, whether or not that's getting your nails done, styling your hair, taking a long bubble bath, that type of thing. Take that time for yourself, because as mom used to always say, when you look better, you feel better, you produce better,
Right.
So that type of thing. Just taking that little bit of time to make sure that you're investing in self, just to decompress and recharge. And lastly, just what we're intaking into our body. We are what we eat. Making sure that we're taking in the proper foods, having a healthy, well-balanced diet, because whatever we ingest, it's the fuel that gives us that push. And what people don't realize is that, the foods that we eat, it changes our hormone levels, our insulin levels, and in turn, that affects the energy that we have and affects our output. And also, when it comes to input, I'm not only talking about our food, but I'm also talking about what we listen to and what we watch. We have to be very careful about using the industry standard on how they are telling us what we should look like, who we should hang around. Because half of the time, the people who are trying to sell or perpetrate that lifestyle, it's all an illusion. So we need to realize what is actually real versus what's embellished a lot of the times. So that's something that we also need to focus on. We need to utilize our own standard, not what society is telling us we should be.
Right. And I think you can apply that whether you're young or mature. So,
what you trying to say? You trying to call me old?
No, just really good points. So, ladies and gents, we have reached the end of our podcast tonight. And before we close, I just like to simply say, know that you are amazing, awesome, and a blessing to this world. We'd like to thank you for tuning in, as well as for your continued support. We appreciate each and every one of you.
And as we always say,
real sisters,
real talk.
Bye. The Hiram Connection is all over social media. We are currently on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We would like to thank those who are already following us and encourage those who are getting to know us through this podcast to connect with us, because we are very interactive on social media.